Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Any Pride. I've got a double quarter pounder in my tummy. In France, I hear they call that a royale with cheese. Today we're getting fat. We're feasting on failure. Just kidding. Overall, fairly happy with the Ogre rework and campaign in Omens of Destruction. Played 100 turns or so across two separate campaigns, both Greasus and Golg, and I find them to be a lot more enjoyable than they were before. Many of those pain points were touched up nicely. The roster is so much more fun to play. What have you. But for this video, we're going to focus on the problems, the major issues I have with the Ogre campaign right now, perhaps to help solve them in coming hotfixes and how to get these jolly giants up to speed and putting their best foot forward. Naturally, this list took a little bit to compile, and even still, there will likely be other issues y'all have run into yourselves, so leave them in the comment section below, and let's get some dialogue and feedback going, because the more we tell CA, more likely we can get things fixed in these early hotfixes and patches and get them really up to speed. By now, you have probably heard about the splash attack bug. It's been making the rounds on Reddit and Total War forums over the last 12 hours or so. I am reticent to fully explain it because I'm not entirely sure how it works and I don't want to spread misinformation, but essentially, certain low-entity units like Monstrous Cavalry and Monstrous Infantry, not SEMs, I believe, in the 100 to 150 weapon strength range, are not applying splash attacks correctly, and as a result are doing minimal damage in certain engagements. Now, I did not find this. I think it might have been Tequila Sunset. He has a good video on the subject, but if you're wondering how it slipped through early access without anyone noticing, I'd argue it really just wasn't that obvious, and it doesn't seem to be ubiquitous in any way. For example, you'll see tests in the background here where Rhinox Cavalry on the early access beta build, and then later on in the live build, recorded not 2 hours ago, are behaving perfectly fine against Chaos Knights, losing 0 to 1 model, losing maybe 25% to 40% HP, but killing off the entire unit doing well. That is about the performance you'd expect to see in a fight between Monstrous Cavalry versus Elite Cav that do not specialize in bonus versus large. Again, that's pre-release and post-release, both are behaving the same way. Nothing weird going on, but if we then do some testing with Kislev Bear Cavalry, immediately we can see a giant issue here. The bonus versus large armor-piercing Bear Cav should do almost as well as Rhinox, and instead are doing literally nothing, and in fact will lose this fight horribly in a fight they should never ever lose. Absolutely awful, should not be happening in any way, shape, or form, but obviously I wasn't using Bear Cav at any point in the last week. I was playing Ogres and Khorne. If we take a look at Gorgers, Dual Weapon Bulls, and Iron Guts, testing against Infantry, there's nothing weird going on here either. Across the board, nothing out of the ordinary. Like I said, 100 turns of campaign. Looking back, there might have been a few engagements here and there, where if I was focused on those specifically and watched a replay back, I could have maybe seen something was up, but that's with the benefit of hindsight, knowing now that the bug exists. Suffice to say, I have a pretty long track record of finding battle issues in pre-release, dating back like 6-7 years at least, whether that be power creep or actual game-breaking problems like Hellebron and the Cursed Blade. So the fact that I went 100 turns across two separate Ogre campaigns and did not notice this issue outside Greasus continuing to be a fat useless sack of shit, well, that should tell you something, right? It's only specific units in specific engagements is how it slipped through. Dude, I love covering stuff like this before launch. It gets huge views, it fixes a major problem for release, makes me look good in the eyes of the community, and there's really no downside for me covering that kind of stuff, right? Like, if I had it my way, I'd be doing that every single DLC cycle. Didn't find it this time. Hopefully it gets fixed soon, because there are surely a bunch of units that have been impacted negatively by this. But if you're one of those people who thinks, like, this is going to completely break your entire Ogre campaign, no, I don't think that it will. Maybe with specific army compositions. Again, I'm not sure every single unit that's been impacted by this, but you can see all the Ogre comps I'm running in this video. None of them were impacted heavily by this at all. That doesn't mean it's not a big bug. It needs to get fixed ASAP, no question about it. But either way, that's not what I want to focus on today. Number one, my big issue with Ogre campaign right now, we're going to shift gears a little bit here. Golg Maneater is fun as hell, but I think he'll only be fun for a short duration, right? Because he is beyond busted. And the main reason is simply the ridiculous amount of resources he generates from contracts, to the point where he completely overshadows the other more important ogres, like Greasus, like Scrag. He is way stronger than the Over-Tyrant himself, and Scrag the Slaughter, the Prophet of the Great Maw, simply because he makes way more money and generates way more meat than they do. It's not even about him in battle. or his army comps or anything of the sort. It's literally just resource generation, money and meat. Now, certainly, I would expect a man-eater mercenary, the most famous of his age, to be very rich. Sure, got no problems with that. But there's some issues here, okay? In my man-eater campaign, I played it super chill, didn't min-max anything, and I was building a tier 5 camp by turn 35. If you're playing optimally, the only real limit to your camp growth is how many turns it takes to build the buildings themselves. That's how much meat is constantly rolling in. It might as well not even be a mechanic for gold. And that's kind of weird, right? One of the major selling points of this Ogre rework is meat as a core resource and mechanic you got a game plan around. There's no game planning with gold. You don't need to game plan for it at all. Every time you beat a contract, you're getting absurd amounts and it just keeps rolling in. I also had 150,000 gold by turn 20, which effectively makes him the richest faction in the entire game. Maybe Khorne can get more than that if you're, of course, doing all the movement tech and like cheesiness that allows you to like just conquer the map in like 8 turns. I get that. Besides that, Gold's got to be the richest dude in the game. And that wouldn't inherently be such an issue. But when you don't have to worry about meat and you don't have to worry about gold, then suddenly what are you worrying about? And the answer is, with this campaign, not much of anything. It meant I could afford multiple doom stacks of tier 4 and tier 5 units by turn 30 if I wanted to get really nasty with it. And in my opinion, the mercenary contracts are too easy to complete and they're too lucrative for the amount of work you have to put in, simple as that. Now, I'm glad for the teleport mechanic, even though it's become overused recently. I think there's a good argument to be made. Too many lords have it now. But for him, I think it makes sense because it lets you play like a proper mercenary, visiting the far corners of the world, sampling delicacies of the planet all over. Without that teleport, you'd be landlocked wherever your start was, and it wouldn't feel good at all. But you do not need to be making like 8,000 meat a pop every 5 turns. It very quickly becomes ridiculous, over the top. It needs to be reined in a bit. He's power creep to hell and back right now. Especially because that discrepancy between him and the original Ogre Lords is very obvious, overshadows them, and they have no real way to generate that kind of income or meat surplus anywhere near that fast. Now, one of my biggest complaints currently with the meat transfer system is that there's no built-in feature to take food from a camp and give it back to an army. You can only take it from an army and give it to a camp. It's a one-way system. Why is that an issue? Well, you may end up playing multiple campaigns without it impacting anything, and you may never notice it, but the times when it does impact you, it can really matter. And I'll give you an example that happened in my first campaign. So you start in Nordland, right? I created a second camp after packing up that first leveled camp in the Northern Empire. I marched towards Moldor on a contract to kill Kislev. I ran a bit low on food while gifting settlements to Throt, and his armies took a bunch of settlements too, so there were limited regions to sack for an influx of food, which meant Golg wasn't really generating food for his army. That second camp was there to help with supply and replenishment in and around Kislev, because at the time my first was on cooldown in the Empire, right? So the front moved south. I reset up my first camp near Ungrim and Karak Kadrin, used that 250 food to create the main leveled camp again. Now I have my first camp. It's the leveled one. It's the one I'm going to use for the majority of the campaign. I just fought a huge battle, got the 250 food from Katarin, set up the camp to bask in my glory, right? Replenish, feast after a hard-fought victory, what have you. This is going to be really enjoyable, right? Wrong. The camp is erected, all fine and dandy there, but I have essentially 0 replenishment because Golg has no food. He's in that lowest tier of meat surplus for his army. Okay, but my camp that's 2 feet away has 700 food. I just set up that camp. It has 700 food. It's right there. Surely my army can walk into camp, eat that food, so they don't all starve to death, right? Nope, you can't do it. You cannot transfer meat from camps to armies, only armies to camps, even if you are literally inside the camp itself. So my main camp is quite literally feasting while Golg and his entire army starved and can't replenish 2 feet outside it. Very bizarre situation. So the major function of a camp, which is to supply an army on the march, just straight up doesn't exist. That functionality does not exist. Completely illogical, makes 0 sense. It isn't good game design, doesn't fit from a lore or thematics perspective. I have no idea why that functionality was not included. The only resupplying camps do is from the meat building that grants like 8, 16, 24 meat a turn, which is not enough to fix a situation where you need to replenish your forces in a turn or two. Now, it ended up being fine. I fixed the issue a little bit later. It was maybe only like a turn. But I can think of lots of examples where an Ogre Lord would temporarily run low on food and would logically seek to transfer meat from a camp to his army. Anyone playing the Ogrehaul will expect that functionality to exist until they learn that it does not. And that's to say nothing of multiple camp situations where food generated from battles is automatically spread evenly across all of your camps and all of your armies. Without having that added functionality of being able to transfer from camp to army, you're gonna sometimes run into some weird situations where you're like, dog, why can I not take meat from there? It doesn't make any sense. It simply needs more options and more functionality. And I don't think that'd be a very hard mechanic to implement either. Nasty little surprise that could have been campaign altering. Thankfully it wasn't, but it very easily could have been. And it's a serious monkey paws type situation because we finally get supply lines in Total War Warhammer, but yet can't supply our own army when they're starving, even when the camp that received tons of food from that army is 2 feet away. What the actual F, bro? Switching gears here again, you probably run into it already, but on end turn, I believe all camps switch back to raiding stance automatically, even if they're meant to be encamped. So you can rack up a lot of diplomatic penalties with factions by accidentally raiding them when that was not your intent at all, and I think it happens every time you press end turn. So if you are playing an Ogre campaign right now, be vigilant on that front. Devs are aware of it, and it should get fixed pretty quick, but it can screw you over if you don't notice it and suddenly have a bunch of allies start hating you, and suddenly there's like this declaration of war gangbang as everyone you try to be homies with suddenly calls you a fugly slut and shanks your ass. Not a good feeling at all. As for Greasus, oh lord! Greasus is common, and on the campaign map, he's a lot more fun now. I really like his Tyrant's Demands and Star Position. There's some cool stuff you can do, but the dude is such a piece of shit, man. In battle, he is a straight embarrassment. He really, really is. He's just waddling around doing a whole bunch of nothing. There have to be deeper issues with his hitbox and swing patterns and such. His mount may be preventing him from swinging, other ogres getting in his way. He really is just bad. I've played like 5 huge battles with him against the Greenskins and Grimgor's Wa stacks, and the best value Greasus managed in a battle so far is like 700 value. He was dueling Grimgor and fighting Black Orcs for 20 freaking minutes, and the best he has gotten in any of those games is 700 value. Now, if you throw him into Chaos Knights or throw him 1v1 against a giant, he'll beat that ass. He'll do great. There are certain scenarios where he can rack up crazy value really quick, but generally speaking, if you throw him into something important, he is not going to do what you need him to do. Grimgor, by the way, bit overtuned on very hard legendary right now. Not very fun to fight. Dude was level 20 at turn 18. 4 full stacks with Wa. He's unbreakable. 87 melee attack. 100 melee attack versus large. 70 plus MD. Close to unkillable. Finally kill him. He's back in like 3 or 4 turns with another full stack. Not enjoyable to surround a character with your entire army. 2 bruisers, Greasus, and a hunter, and have to fast forward 20 minutes to kill a single character. Literally, I had to fast forward for almost 20 minutes to kill Grimgor, and then he's back again, not 4 turns later. I don't really have anything to resolve there. Like, it's a good thing that the AI can put up, I mean, they can be aggressive and put up an actual fight, especially in the early game. Makes things interesting. But I don't know, fighting Grimgor, especially with ogres, is just not fun, dude. It's just an exercise in futility. Even though I'm winning the war pretty handily, and I've beaten back a bunch of his stacks, and I'm definitely gonna beat him. It's just frustrating. Like, I don't want to fast forward 20 minutes to kill a single lord. It doesn't feel good. But outside that, couple major issues I've had. Number 1, the bounty system for Greasus is almost never even in the same ballpark as your starting settlements. They like want you to kill a village hero in the northeastern waste past the Great Bastion, or take Karak Doom north of Uzkalak, 7 provinces away, or I don't know, like go steal Kugas Diarrhea. I don't know what they want you to do, but it's always absurdly far to the point where like you don't interact with the mechanic at all. You can re-roll them every turn, and I do, but 40 turns in, and I haven't completed a single bounty for Greasus because 90% of them aren't even close to me. And the ones that are, I still can't afford to send armies to deal with when I have an actual war going on inside my own borders with Grimgor. Like, the mechanic might as well not even exist. It works for Golg because you can teleport places and go places and show up wherever you need to be. It doesn't work for Greasus at all. I'm not going to go fight for Miao Ying when Grimgor is just dropping Waz every 5 seconds. And finally, Winds of Magic generation for the Ogres. Now, I actually like that they made Channeling Stance useful in Warhammer 3, that they made it matter. It's something you have to think about, and it makes sense as a way to prepare for coming battles. You're like, okay, I see Malice is beginning to move on my borders. I'm going to start generating Winds of Magic and doing whatever shamanistic rituals I must do to prepare for the coming storm. Sounds great, right? Problem is, not every faction gets Channeling Stance. The Ogres don't. And so I underwent 30 turns of the most frustrating battles in this war against Grimgor, where I had essentially 0 Winds of Magic to work with, purely because of RNG, with no real agency or mechanic to take control of that system and allow my Firebelly and Slaughter Masters to, start doing their actual jobs, casting magic. Now, yes, there is this Sacrifice to the Great Maw, this Bone to Pot ability, but 2 Winds of Magic a turn is a joke for 20 meat upkeep. Upkeep you can't necessarily afford in the early game when you've already got a 20 stack. That's 40 meat a turn. That is pretty substantial when you're trying to spread that across maybe multiple camps, or at least funnel all of it into one camp and multiple armies. That is infinitely worse than Channeling Stance. 2 Winds of Magic a turn. Channeling Stance will give you, I think in 4 or 5 turns, will max out your Winds of Magic. I think it might be 20 a turn to max you out on wins. Now, I will readily admit I have not used this stance because it looks so bad on paper, and I was just kind of in shock looking at it. So I haven't seen in practice how impactful the reserves per second buff is, but it requires heavy amounts of killing from your casters to even generate anything on that front, which they can't do if they can't cast any spells because they don't have any wins. 500 kills to get the max power reserve regeneration. I don't know how that's going to work if I can't cast spells to begin with. So the Mountains of Morn in my campaign were just a straight dead zone bereft of any and all magic for all of my battles with Grimgor's OPS in the early game. It was very frustrating. I need to play around with the stance some more and see if it's better than it looks on paper, or maybe there's elements to it I'm not fully understanding. But in my experience thus far, I felt like I didn't really have any agency or the tools required to be able to use my casters properly, and I did not like that. I'm very fine with this stance requiring meat to work. It's very thematic, as is growth being replaced by meat surplus in camps. I think that's very cool, but Channeling Stance works great. I'm not sure why the Ogre equivalent appears to be so much weaker and require a resource on top of that. If you're going to make me pay for an important resource to access Winds of Magic generation, then it has to be very impactful and allow my armies to cast their magic. But yeah, those are my main gripes with the Ogre campaign right now. Obviously, the splash attack bug should be top priority. Hopefully hotfixed before the weekend, but if not, early next week at the latest. Let me know what your thoughts are so far on Omens of Destruction and the new campaigns, and I will see you all in the next video. Any Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.